Hello and welcome to this session of the Horizon Europe Info Days 2021. My name is Wiebke Pankauke. I am Deputy Head of Unit for Future Urban and Mobility Systems in DG Research and Innovation. And I'm joined by my colleagues Guido Sacchetto, Maurizio Maggiore, both from DG Research as well, and Georgios Tsamalis from DG Move, to inform you about 7 topics in Destination 5 of Cluster 5 today. If we could start the presentation, please. Then I can give you a little bit of background and context. Next slide, please. So for your orientation, we are in Cluster 5 of Horizon Europe, Destination 5, Clean and Competitive Solutions for All Transport Modes. And we will deal mainly with topics under zero-emission road transport, where you can see an arrow on the slide, but also transport-related health and environmental issues further down in the list, as well as a cross-cutting topic. What we are dealing with here, of course, is research to reduce the impact of transport and road transport in particular on the climate, on the natural environment, and on our health. And it's clear, of course, that research plays a crucial role in achieving the ambitious targets that the EU has set in these areas. Next slide, please. This shows the budget, and in terms of budget, you can see that a large percentage of the topics, 31%, implement European partnerships. If you look at the orange arrows on the left, you see that the partnership towards zero-emission road transport, or 2.0 for short, has 8 topics with an overall EU budget contribution of 199 million euros. Of these, we will present 4 to you today. Next slide, please. For these 4 topics that fall under the 2.0 partnership, the private side of this partnership is represented by the association EGVIA for 2.0. You can follow the link to find out more about it. The topics were drafted in co-creation by 2.0 stakeholders and in the co-creation group with colleagues of different DGs inside the Commission. There has been a full inter-service consultation process and a consultation of member states. It is important to know that applicants for 2.0 calls, as for all other partnerships, do not need to be members of EGVIA for 2.0. Calls are fully open. And one more thing to bear in mind for these 4 topics, as well as the 3 others of our session today, is that our presentations cannot be exhaustive. And so please refer in any event to the full call text, which is published on the funding and tender portal. Next slide, please. This is the overview of all the topics that will be covered in this session. We will start with the 4 2.0 topics, and after that we will have a round of questions and answers. Then we will continue with the cross-cutting topic and the 2 topics concerning health and environment issues. And you will then have another occasion to ask questions. Please ask your questions on Slido. So go to slido.com and enter the code that is displayed here, which is also directly embedded in this session's event page. In fact, make sure that you're in the right Slido session, which is day 2, destination 2, part 2. So there's part 2, which is marked with a green dot. That's on the top right corner. So please put your questions into Slido already as we go through the presentations, and don't wait for the very end. And remember also that you can support questions asked by others by voting for them in Slido. And now I will hand over first to Guido Sacchetto and then directly onwards to Maurizio Maggiore for the presentation of the 2.0 topics. Guido, please.
Perfect. Hello and good morning to everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Good. Okay, I will be quickly presenting today the first topic, one now and one later on. The first one, and maybe we can go, okay, perfect, the next slide, is next-gen vehicles, innovative zero-emission BV architecture for regional medium freight haulage, so under the 2.0 partnership. As it's clear, the scope for this topic will focus on the validation of full electric, so we're talking about full electric, N2 and N3 category vehicles, which are under vector categories group 1, 2, 3, which means a gross vehicle of more than 7.5 tons for specific role of regional, suburban, and urban freight transport. proposal, as you can see from the slide, are expected to address all the following points. So we want to have a validation of the zero-emission vehicles to demonstrate the capabilities of the architecture in real-life conditions, and the demonstration of a high-efficiency powertrain capable of at least 300 kilometers range between recharging events. Also, an achievement should be an improvement of the overall efficiency of at least 10% of the total efficiency over the current generation of electric vehicles of the same categories. Project needs to demonstrate at least 200 kilometers average in daily operation in real condition, which means that the topic is expected to include end user from across Europe, from different places. We want to have a demonstration of a delivered load capacity not less than 90% compared to a current ICE vehicle, and also to help define and shape and develop charging infrastructure solutions, and also strategies, which can be private, public, or maybe public and private, also possibly in coordination with some projects issuing from an additional topic, which will be presented later on by Maurizio. This is another possible synergies, is with topic 02 on the specific powertrain components. If needed, there could be the development of synergies among these projects. What we're really interested is real operational conditions or use cases that need to be proposed with strategies to overcome also payload and range limitation, exploiting all the operational benefits, for example, low maintenance, operational costs, but also innovation enabled, for example, by big data acquisition. There is a possibility, as always, to have synergy with shorter range or lower payload, which means urban and suburban, but remember that the focus is quite strict. And we want also, as the last point, maybe to have a project developing a digital twin model of the demonstrator vehicles. Also, last point is to develop some tools for the integration of the zero vehicle in the fleet. If we go to the next slide, we can see the outcomes. Okay, perfect. And it's clear, as written and clearly stated, the projects are expecting to contribute to all the expected outcomes. So we want to see innovative, competitive, and affordable zero tailpipe emission vehicles architecture, as we said, of the categories which are well defined: N2, N3 category, vector 1, 2, 3, which means with gross vehicle weight over 7.5 tons. We want to see fully validated prototypes with a range of at least 200 kilometers, synergies, as we said, with urban and suburban operation, validated in real world conditions. We want innovative solution that can match the performance, at least, of non-zero tailpipe emission vehicles, maximizing the productivity, in particular on ton kilometers transported by years. As we said, we include also some specific, flexible, managerial tools to support the integration of this kind of vehicles into the fleet, and also the demonstration of fast charging concept capable of fitting regulation and practices, and in particular for load and unload points, so to also enable more efficient operation. The focus in this case will be on logistic hubs and on 10-tier urban nodes. Last point, really to be remembered because it's really important, is the price reduction, which is another main point of this topic, because we want to demonstrate at least a net TCO parity with 2020 engine-based solution, assuming a production volume of 10,000 pieces per year. And then after that, a TCO reduction. So these can really help to increase the economies of scale. We can move maybe to the next slide, which is just the 3-4 points. As you see, the project are expecting a contribution by European Union of between 10 to 15 million. The total budget is 45 million. It's an innovation action. And maybe, as you see, the TRL level expected is 7, 8. So it's slightly more open for innovation action because we leave it up to the proposer to come to the best possible solution, but filling and covering all the points that we saw before. As always, remember, you need to read again well the topic, because the topic really is a description. This is just the main points, but read carefully the topic before applying. I remember last point, maybe the funding rate for this innovation action under 2.0 will be limited to 60% of the total eligible cost. I think with this, I presented enough this topic, and I would leave it to Maurizio to go with the next ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'll try to breeze through these topics. We don't have a lot of time. So the first one I'm dealing with is the first of the next-gen EV components. We have next-gen EVs, the total vehicle, and this one is a group on components. This is on power electronics. So we want to promote cheaper, more affordable, more integrated power electronics, looking at all the aspects that lead to this, so the circuit, the interconnect, and so on. The idea is also to have a strong integration in the thermal management of the component and within the whole vehicle. At the same time, looking at the integration of higher temperature components that reduce the demands on such systems. Basically, stress again, this is integration, so there's no development of the chips themselves. These are coming from other initiatives. And these systems should be all addressed together. Next slide, please. Yeah, the targets are a 20% cost reduction with an increase, a significant increase in efficiency and thermal performance in order to, the two things are synergetic, basically. If you simplify the management, you also help reducing the cost. We give also targets on the densities, so 5 kilowatt per kilogram or 20 kilowatt per liter for battery electric vehicles, which is the target here. The integration should be facilitated with other components, for instance, within the batteries or within the powertrain, the electric motor or the axles. And of course, all this should be done keeping the reliability and availability, the high availability and reliability of customary in the automotive industry. So also the quality levels and the should be kept to a high level. Next one. As different from the previous one, this is an REA, so it has 100% funding, and the budget is 20 million with 4 to 6 million per project, so should be about 4 projects selected. TRL is 5 to 6. The deadline is the same as the other topics. Next one. Here we look at the charging side of the picture, which is more and more important for the success of electric vehicles. We also look at something we didn't do much in the past, also because there were not mature standards on that, which is V2G or V2X, so vehicle to anything. And the idea is to improve the user experience, to make it simpler, more transparent, considering the lower part of the charging power levels, because that's what is the most important for the massive deployment of vehicles. So we want to look at the concepts that can allow these big masses of vehicles to be dealt with in an efficient way while not affecting too much the grid. And with the V2X concepts also help exchanging energy with the grid, and therefore helping the integration of renewables. This means, for instance, that we want to look at the efficiency of this, because of course, if you have losses in both directions, you have a big impact. But also we want to understand the proposals to understand what is the impact on the life of the battery, what is the impact on the cost, because of course this would mean more cost either on board the vehicle or in the charger, depending if it's done in AC or in DC. And at the same time, looking at the fast charging concept, which is another way to deal with the integration of vehicles, of many vehicles, which is basically having a model closer to the one of today with the charging at the pump, so to say, instead of slow charging over the night. Probably a mix of the two is needed, but these concepts should be explored and to see what is the optimal strategy in each different conditions. A city where there's many people with a garage is different with a city where there are very few garages, and therefore everybody has to charge on street. At the same time, we want to look at the other issues that can arise from this, like personal data and portability, and look at the whole system level for between the vehicle and the grid. And all these issues with data, of course, needs to be integrated at a kind of control center or so in some cases for fleets and so on. Yeah, also in this case, all the bullets have to be covered because we want to have a look at the whole system. Next slide. The targets, what we want out of this is an easier integration of the vehicle, a better experience for the people, the understanding, a deeper understanding of what it means to have this exchange between the grid and the vehicle in the two directions, what benefits can be achieved, how much can the driver get in terms of real money if he allows this, and at the same time what he loses, for instance, if this has an impact on the life of the battery. So all this needs to be demonstrated in the real application. Is not just in the lab, but we want some pilot deployment to demonstrate what is being achieved with these approaches. Next slide. It's again an REA. In this case, the projects are bigger, 7 to 10 million, and we have 25, so 2 to 3 projects could be funded. In this case, TRL is 5 to 7, and where relevant, they could be participating to the bridge activities. Next slide. This topic instead is looking at a kind of wider, higher level problem, which is the fact that we have many life cycle assessments going around, in some cases with, let's say, bit biased or old information, and therefore leading to widely different conclusions. In some other cases, is based on data which is not real, but is coming from databases or whatever. Again, leading to strong discrepancies. So this topic wants to try and, sorry, this is the old slide. We had replaced this. For some reason, there was a copy paste error. This is not the topic. Well, I will go with, let's say, by memory, so to say. The idea is to try and get real data in the LCA and to get an approach which is common, which is standardized. And this is a joint venture between the 2.0 and the batteries partnership, exactly to allow all the stakeholders to be involved, and therefore to have a good mutual understanding, exchange of data, and to reach a standardized way of doing these studies in order to be able to better inform future policies. Next slide. So this is looking at the vehicle and the cell level, because of course the battery is the main component where this issue of the LCA is important. So the idea is to try to include all the aspects, including the side of the energy supply in a correct way, having an harmonized approach, and trying to look also a bit in the future to the social LCA. But this is, let's say, a beginning, because this is less mature than the conventional LCA, so to say. And of course, all this to try and have at all level, component, vehicle, and so on, a better, let's say, use of resources and better circularity, and a better background frame for doing these activities in the other projects. The idea is that this produces a methodology that then other projects in the partnership will use in their LCAs. Next slide. This is a CSA, so it's 100% funded. And we expect one project, because being a policy, of course, we want as much as possible all the stakeholders to be involved and to contribute and to reach a common approach. So also in this case, the bridge activities could be relevant. The idea is to bring together all the relevant stakeholders from the whole chain, because, as I said, this needs to be applied later to all future projects. That's it from my side. Thank you, and I'm looking forward for your questions.
Thank you very much, Guido and Maurizio. And we have indeed already a number of questions posted on Slido. And I would suggest that we take first the two questions that are addressed to Guido here, to the first project that was, for the first topic that was presented. So firstly, it says full electric N2 and or N3 category vehicles, vector vehicle group 1, 2, or 3. Which tonnage applies here? Up to 24 tons included. And then we also take maybe at the same time the third question. On the title contains the phrase BEV, not the V, not the scope. Must the project be battery or could it also be fuel cell? Over to you, Guido.
Okay, I can start maybe with the second one. It's clear that this one we're talking about battery electric vehicles, so no fuel cells. There would be an additional topic for 2022. We would be covering the fuel cells. But for this, which has a specific regional up to 300 kilometers, this focus is really on battery electric vehicles. So the fuel cell will be out of scope. On the vector, yes, just to clarify and also to say, you might know that VEICO is a new simulation tool that has been developed by European Commission that shall be used to determine the CO2 emission and fuel consumption for heavy-duty vehicles, so for truck, buses, and coaches, with the gross vehicle weight of above 3.5 tons. This is already ongoing, so we decided really to focus and to give a direct link to the vector category groups. We said that it's 1, 2, 3. If you go and verify what are the weight and the different categories, you will find that for category 1, 2, 3, that we can go up to 60, more than up to 16 tons. So from 7.5 tons to 16. The 24 would be then again not included in this call, but would be possible to apply for the type of topic that we're expecting for next year. And I think I can stop here at the moment.
Thank you very much, Guido. So we can move now to questions to Maurizio. So this is about the second topic that was presented. So the first question that you see at the top there, if I could also see it again, please. Sorry, it just disappeared from screen. Thank you. So is giving appropriate explanation of the benefits for the technical works and results, is a project length of 48 months possible and appreciated? And maybe indeed we could this time as well take the questions together. Regarding reduction of losses by 25%, does this reduction apply only to power electronics and associated controls or all powertrains? And thirdly, system partitioning integration should integrate all the proposed power converters or only a part of them? Maurizio, please.
Well, I think all the questions more or less go around the same thing, except the first. The first, it's quickly, you can do any duration you want. For a component level project, I would say 48 seems a bit long to me, but I don't know what are the reasons for such a duration. So as I say, nothing is excluded. Provide a good justification why a component level project needs all this time. Remember, the chips are excluded, so it's been an integration and design. I would say it seems, let's say, a bit long. For the other issues, the reduction is on the power electronics which are proposed, but basically on what is the system which is proposed. Of course, when you integrate things, you end up also having that efficiency to take into account, because of course, if you put that into the motor, then you take into account, you have to take into account also that. And that includes also the thermal management. The idea is you propose what combination, what integration, what thermal approach, and so on better fits the requirement. There are the targets in terms of the power and energy density, volumetric and weight. So how all that is addressed in the best way. There's no specification of axle configuration. Again, that's your choice. In the end, the targets are what guides these choices, should be. Okay, this is, I think, the last one that appears here is for charging. It's when I say fast, meaningful power, well, if you know how cars are charged, you never have all the time the same power. You have a profile. So I don't know what it means. It cannot be flexible. Basically, the fast charging is the fastest you can, but normally the vehicle doesn't take that for the whole duration. You have to modulate it. And of course, that is part of the game. At the same time, we know that in reality, this is determined by the car in the first place. So of course, the car capability dictates what can be done. And I think that's it. I don't see anything more.
Okay, indeed. Thank you very much, Maurizio. I think there are a few more questions. Let's just see if we can make them appear. So these have been dealt with. So I see here.
Yeah, this on the densities. Yeah, that's again for the power electronics, and yeah, about the bridge, I would ask the colleagues, because that's not, let's say, the something I dealt with in the technical description.
Okay, is that a question for Guido then?
Yes, okay, no problem. If you wish, Emma, yes, okay, perfect. This is just a possibility, nothing compulsory, but there is a possibility to link to the Bridge initiative. It's a European Commission initiative that is, well, started already with Horizon 2020, uniting a smart grid, energy storage, island, and digitalization project to create a more cross-cutting and structured view of all these issues. There is a possibility. It's just a reminder of this initiative that will be continued also for the next years. So basically, we just give the possibility, if it's needed, where it's needed, to also link to this initiative. Nothing more.
Thank you very much. If I didn't miss anything, I see one last question to Maurizio, and then we'll move on to the second part of the session. Maurizio, could the target group of residents charging their vehicles at home be an issue to be addressed if considered with energy community approach?
Well, the idea was more to deal with let's say, on street, because at home that tends to be a private choice. Of course, when you have a group of residents, that, let's say, becomes closer to managing on-street charging. So it could be if there are, let's say, synergies between the two. Basically, you could deal with an on-street approach and see the synergies with at home, particularly for a group. Of residents, like in a condominium, or several units, separate units, but all having this the same system and controlled in the same way. So I would suggest to address this as a kind of synergy with the other approach.
Thank you very much, Maurizio, and thank you for all the questions and to colleagues for their answers. We can move over now to the second half of this session, and I would ask Guido, please, to carry on with the cross-cutting topic. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks again, Vipke. Okay, now we will be presenting this topic, which is D5117, support for dissemination events in the field of transport research. Basically, this action is set to provide support to the TRA, Transport Research Arena Conference, to be organized in 2024. This should be in line with previous TRA, so it's an event that should address all transport modes, so road, rail, waterborne, aviation, and cross-modal aspects. Project will need to work in collaboration with a wide range of relevant actors that you see listed here, in particular DC services, European Commission, but also the European technology platforms for each road transport, Conference for European Directors of Road, European Transport Research Alliance, and the previous TRA conference organizer, because we want to see a progression of the different TRAs. Work shall define all the different aspects which are related to events, so the planning, the technical, the political sessions, the definition of the appropriate location, the handling of speakers, contribution, logistics, and blah, blah, blah. But also remind that the organizations also supported the demonstration activities that be related and included in the TRA for 2024. And in addition to that, we decided to include the TRA and the TRA Vision, it was called, so also to organize two competitions for transport research and innovation. A competition for student and young researchers, and a competition for senior researchers in all the relevant transport fields. So as okay, I heard the big noise. I hope you can still hear me. Okay, well, I'm continuing.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then if you can hear me, I can continue. And I was saying that also the previous TRA Vision are now included in this topic. So it's a unique topic covering both TRA and TRA Vision. So also doing the competition. Of course, a very good and strong media coverage of all the events is really expected during and after the TRA conference. We can go to the next slide and see the outcomes. Again, here, as we said, we need to contribute to all the following expected outcomes. So a high visibility, a stronger political and strategic relevance of the transport sector, dissemination, communication, valorization of all the transport research and innovation objectives, the perspective, the strategies, the results, more affecting of strong links and synergies between the stakeholders and the policymakers. So this is also one idea of the event at TRA, and one of the main TRA event that we're doing annually. An increased attractiveness of the transport-related studies and also activities, by also giving, as we said, with the two contribute to a competition, recognition and visibility to the best achievements. I remember 2 points, that the proposal, and maybe we can go to the next slide. Okay, perfect. It's, as we said, a CSA, so 100% covered, budget of 1.5 million, same to the contribution, deadline is always 14 September. Special condition, I would like to remind them, projects are expected to demonstrate the financial and organizational support of the national authorities, and also to propose a preliminary economic plan to cover the additional funding that is needed, because the TRA would just cover a part, which is a study, but the TRA event is quite expensive. So we also want to see the complete and full economic plan. And the second point, even more relevant, for this topic for 2025, preference will be given to proposals that will be involving member states holding the presidency of the European Union in 2020. So Belgium and I think I can stop here and we can take the question if it's needed after. And I would leave it directly to Georgios, correct? Thanks.
Exactly. Thank you, Guido. Now we move to another area under this destination, which is the impact of transport and environmental health. My colleagues before in the topics that they presented, they were focused on zero emission vehicles that that actually don't have any impact on the air quality. Nevertheless, considering the fact that the existing vehicle stock will take some years to be fully renewed to zero emission fleet, we are proposing under this area 2 topics that will help reduce the impact of polluting vehicles, let's say of non-zero emission vehicles, to the environmental health. So the first topic is the development of and demonstration of cost-affordable and adaptable retrofit solutions for tailpipe and brake polluting emissions. Okay, new fuel-efficient vehicles, although they produce less CO2, but they at the same time they pump out more nanoparticles that are too tiny to count. And some of these are equipped with gasoline direct injection engines, and are quite heavy polluters. Therefore, part of the scope, the first bullet, is to address emissions of nanoparticles from indirect injection of conventional gasoline and natural gas engines or pre-Euro 6 direct injection gasoline cars, and aim at reducing real emissions at a relatively low cost. We had previous projects on retrofit, and in particular, there was given back in 2018, if I remember, the Horizon Prize for the Cleanest Engine Retrofit that managed to demonstrate very high NOx reduction performance on a high-emitting Euro 5 diesel engine. In this topic, we like to demonstrate in the field the results of deploying the available retrofits, in particular to public and private fleets, running high numbers of kilometers within the city, like buses, delivery vans, taxis. Moreover, the actions are expected to develop and demonstrate new low-cost retrofit technologies for natural gas buses and natural gas and gasoline cars, with a clear validation in real driving of the reduction of the emissions. Another aspect of the proposals is to assess the specific contribution of brake particles on local air and water quality, and develop low-cost retrofit solution for these transport vehicles, as well as demonstrate existing solutions in the field to assess their benefit and usability or versus their operating cost. And the focus will be specifically on long-lived public transport assets like, let's say, metro stations, bus stations, and so on. Additionally, we're asking proposals to develop retrofit solutions for urban heavy-duty vehicles and rail or rolling stock that aim as well at reducing exhaust and brake noise, and to devise specific incentive schemes to facilitate the adoption of these technologies, because having retrofits that are too expensive is not means severely restricts their usability. What do we expect the income of this, the expected income of this topic? Next slide, please. Is to have affordable and adaptable retrofit solutions that, with a fraction of the vehicle market value, would reduce the emissions of the existing internal combustion engine fleet. To have an avoidance of transfer of pollution from high to low income EU countries, since most of these vehicles continue their life to other parts of Europe, where the zero emission vehicle penetration rate is quite low. Moreover, to reduce the health impact for highly exposed groups like public transport workers and users, and this is mainly due to the emissions from brakes, the particles come from brakes. Another outcome will be to have affordable and adaptable retrofit solutions to reduce particle emissions by over 90% for particles both in terms of numbers and mass. This refers to the emissions from brakes. To have a reduced impact by heavy metals on soil and surface and groundwaters, and to have reduced noise impact for retrofitted vehicles and the rolling stock. And this is an innovation action with a total budget of 10 million euros. And the EU contribution is 4 to 5 million euros per project. And we expect these actions to reach TRL level 8. Move to the second topic. The second topic is focusing on the L category vehicles, and one of the aspect is the noise aspect, because noise pollution actually is a growing environmental concern, and definitely adversely affects quality of life, especially in the cities. An increase in traffic volume or an increased congestion results in a higher noise level. Therefore, as congestion increases, the noise should also be tackled. And one of the ways to tackle it is to reduce it at source. And within this framework, so with this topic, we want actions that are proposing to assess the behavior of a large sample of L vehicles in real driving conditions for both noise and emissions in comparison with certification tests. Because sometimes, the noise levels in real driving emissions differ significantly to the ones reported in the lab, and the same with particle emissions. In particular, we need to assess the real world driving behavior that can produce particularly high annoyance and effect on health. And this refers to the noise emissions. Moreover, to propose specific technical improvements in the standard test procedure performed in homologated test tracks, so that the test could better approach real-world driving conditions and improve measurement technology for detecting nanoparticles. Also to assess how significant the impact of these emissions is on urban environments and health, and examine whether the current regulatory limits are sufficient. To assess as well how widespread tampering is, because this results in additional noise, increased noise, its impact on global urban noise and emission levels, and propose solutions to prevent it. And as well, to develop reliable technological solutions and effective experimental techniques for better enforcement of the regulatory measures for detecting noise under real driving conditions. That said, and the expected income of this project is to have an in-depth assessment of the noise and pollutant emissions of at least 150 L category vehicles, starting from the 10 top sellers of the different subcategories having significant sales, including different brands and geographical coverage. To have measures for mitigating the noise from L category vehicles, a development of reliable detection technique for tampered L category vehicles, and as well to have a set of best practices for integrating a growing number of L category vehicles in the urban traffic without increasing the noise and emission pollution. This is a research innovation action, TRL level 5 to 6. Total budget is 5 million euros, and we expect one project with a range of 4 to 5 million euros to be funded. And yes, these are the two topics, so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Back to Wittke.
Many thanks, Guido, again, and thank you, Georgios, for your presentations. So we have a second round of questions now. I see there are still a few questions on the first round of topics. I would suggest that we start with the ones that have just been presented, and then we will see if we have time to look at a few additional questions. And in any case, all the questions that might not be answered in this session, we will try and answer and then to be posted on the participants portal. And you can, of course, there also post more questions if you would like to ask additional clarifications. So I would suggest that we start with a small clarification question on the cross-cutting topic. Guido, could you explain where TRL 2024 will be held, if in fact that's already clear?
Yes, can you hear me? Okay, good. Well, that's the point. We still don't know, because the idea is really to live up to the proposer to come with the best suggestion. We just asked and proposed, it's written in the topic. Please read it again carefully, because you will find maybe additional information than what you're looking at in the slide currently. Preference will be given to proposal involving member state holding the presidency for the 2024, so which means Belgium and Hungary. Belgium in the first half and Hungary in the second half of 2024. Basically, we leave it to the proposer to come with their best solution on how to involve. It's open, really open to the proposer. I can only say that 2022, because we already started, is in Portugal. But for 2024, we expected to have really a proposal and suggestion by the proposer of this topic, which shall involve, at least preference will be given, to proposer involving a member state with presidency. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the clarification. Now I think we have questions for Georgios. Let's start with the ones concerning the first topic. So could you confirm if proposals must cover the full scope, exhaust and brakes, or is it possible to focus on one of them? And again, I would suggest that we take the questions together, if you don't mind, George. Does the deployment of available retrofits to fleets cover also diesel vehicles? And should projects do both, demonstrate available retrofits and develop new ones?
Yes. Okay. So for the first question, yes, our intention is to cover both exhaust and brakes. Okay. And I see a question related to the budget. Yes, the thing is the budget by not seem sufficient, but on our best analysis, it seems that it is feasible to cover both with this 4 to 5 million per proposal. So there is a second question. Does the deployment of available retrofits cover also diesel vehicles of available? Yes, I think as it was stated in the proposal, there is already available retrofit for diesel vehicles, but we want them to be deployed to large fleets of buses and delivery vans and this type of things. I think yes. So the answer is yes to that. And there is another question: should proposers do both, demonstrate available retrofits and develop new ones? Yes, indeed, that's the case, as there were two separate bullets on this, on available and new retrofits as well, with different, with a bit different purpose. Yeah.
So maybe we carry on with the following questions. So, Joseph, I would suggest on the slide that you see here, we take first the questions on topic 15, which would be the first one and the last one. Could a project cover just brakes pollution in automotive and train sector, or should also cover the retrofit of tailpipe emissions? And then I would suggest that you take the second one at the bottom as well. Incentive schemes are mentioned only for tailpipe retrofits. Should they be considered for brake retrofits as well?
Okay, so let's take the first question. So I'm going to just cover brakes policy, or should also cover the retrofit of tailpipe emissions. Yes, I think the answer is similar to what I gave. We want to cover both cases, both tailpipe emissions and brakes pollution on this topic. So and then we go to the question regarding incentive schemes. So because I think this is up to the proposal actually. This is not specified in the text. Actually, most of the detail that is not, let's say, explicitly mentioned in the text it's also up to the proposal to make a choice. Or it could be either, or it could be both. So and Mauricio wants to complement something, so I can pass the
Yeah, thanks.
the
I would comment on some of the questions, like the cost. We are talking about hundreds of euros per vehicle. So with 5 million, I don't see really where the issue is. We say that in some cases the technologies are already there, so there's no development. It's only demonstrating on the fleet or small adaptations, while, for instance, a retrofit for natural gas and gasoline doesn't exist, but the basic technology is there because the GPF is deployed on serial production. So again, it's not anything to be developed from scratch. So absolutely, the funding is, I think, more than generous in the sense that it should allow a large number of demonstrations in different cities and different environments. For instance, for the brakes, it's important to see whether these filters, these systems survive snow, mud, rain, in all conditions. And therefore, it's important that this is done in an exhaustive way in many different conditions.
Maurizio, if you want to take also the question on the PM 2.5 and other emissions pollution.
The fact that we cover natural gas and gasoline, of course, means that we are going beyond PM 2.5 and beyond PM. We want to reduce the particle numbers and therefore nanoparticles and so on. Of course, the brake instead is more addressing the PM because they do very little nanoparticles. But for all the exhaust part, we are covering also that. There's another question I see. PM emission 90%. The speaker says it cannot be done, but there are demonstrations that did it by taking out, of course, not reducing the friction, but aspiring or capturing the particles. So, but anyway, this is research. Otherwise, we would just say install what is available. For the duration, I would say the usual, as I say, there's not a lot of development, so this should be a project of I would say 2 to 3 years.
Thank you very much. We're being very efficient going through a lot of questions. So I see one more question actually.
On charging, yes, I saw.
On charging, indeed. Maurizio, if you could take that one, please.
A minority of charging sessions today, because most people who buy an electric vehicle have a place to charge. So, judging the future from the past is not a smart strategy. In some cities where private garages are not very available, it's likely to become the majority if let's say the take up is massive. About fast charging, I think this is a repeat of the previous question. Nobody wants to do V2G on fast charging. I mean, you don't have the time because the car fast charges and then it's supposed to go away. You have tariffs that discourage staying 1 minute longer than the time needed for charging. So of course, in those conditions, you cannot do V2G. At best, you can do modulation if the load is creating problems to the grid. So this is let's say a requirement specific for that condition, but the V2G is for slow charging, not for fast charging.
Thank you very much. I see one more question to George here, and then I'm checking with colleagues if we've missed anything. And as I said previously, of course, you can also ask your questions subsequently in writing. So Georges, if you don't mind taking the last one that appears here, 50 to 60% reduction in NOx is also required. Does this apply for gasoline, CNG vehicles or diesel ones?
Okay, for diesel ones, there is already an available solution that can reduce it up to 80% from what I remember. So therefore they are included, but okay, we'll also, like as it is stated in the text, also to have it reduced for gasoline vehicles. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. So I think we have answered all the specific questions that have come in through Slido. Thank you very much to all participants again, and of course to colleagues for all their explanations. So this leaves me just to give you some last information. If we could have the presentation again, please. So this is just to inform you, of course, that via this link on the funding and tender opportunities, you will find all the information and the links you need to apply to the various calls. So again, thank you very much to all the speakers. Thank you very much to participants. I hope this session has been helpful for you. And thank you again for your attention, and goodbye.
Bye.